Welcome in, everyone. Ready to dive into the world of the Indian leopard with us.
Always ready to talk about these amazing animals.
I think a lot of people hear leopard and picture the African savanna,
Right.
but we're focusing on a very specific type of leopard today.
Yeah, the Indian leopard, or Panthera pardus fusca, to be precise.
Panthera pardus fusca.
And they're found all across the Indian subcontinent, not just in, like you said, the savanna.
So not just the savanna, where else can we find them?
Well, pretty much everywhere. You've got the dense forests of the Western Ghats, the dry, arid landscapes of Rajasthan.
Wow, really?
Yeah. And even up into the foothills of the Himalayas.
That's incredible. Such a diverse range of habitats.
It really speaks to their adaptability.
So I think most people have a general idea of what a leopard looks like, but what specifically makes the Indian leopard stand out?
Well, picture this. Golden yellow fur with these striking black rosettes.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and the males, they're the larger of the two sexes.
How big are we talking?
They can get pretty big, upwards of 70 kilograms and over 2.5 meters long.
Whoa. Okay, so not exactly a small kitty cat.
Definitely not.
And all that size and power, it's got to be helpful for hunting.
Oh, absolutely. They are incredibly strong and agile, built for taking down prey. Sharp claws, powerful jaws.
Now, I've heard that Indian leopards are known for hanging out in trees.
That's right. They're surprisingly good climbers.
But why the treetops? What's the advantage there?
Well, for one, it's a safe haven from larger predators like tigers
Makes sense.
and even humans. Plus, it's a great place to stash their kills.
Oh, so they kept their food up there.
Exactly. Away from scavengers like hyenas and jackals.
Like a little leopard pantry in the trees. I love that.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of fascinating. And speaking of food,
Yeah, let's talk about what they're putting in that pantry.
well, Indian leopards are opportunistic carnivores, so their diet is pretty diverse.
Like what? What are some of their favorite meals?
Oh, deer, langurs, wild boars.
Okay, so pretty typical prey animals.
Yeah, but they've also been known to eat porcupines.
Porcupines. Ouch, how do they even manage that?
Carefully, I guess. But here's the thing. Remember how adaptable they are.
Right, you mentioned that.
Well, that adaptability means they can also live near human settlements.
Oh, I see where you're going with this. And that sometimes leads to conflict, right?
Unfortunately, yeah. Sometimes their diet expands to include livestock, stray dogs, even poultry, if they can get it.
Yeah, so it gets complicated when their territory overlaps with ours.
Exactly. It's a complex issue with no easy answers. But before we get too deep into that,
Yeah.
let's talk about their hunting techniques, how they actually catch their prey.
I'm imagining something out of a nature documentary, a stealthy, silent approach.
You're pretty much spot on. Indian leopards are masters of stealth. Amazing senses, especially hearing and sight.
And that spotted coat probably helps them blend in, right?
Oh, absolutely. Perfect camouflage. They can stalk their prey incredibly patiently.
So they've got their target in sight. What happens next?
Well, picture this. The leopard, hidden in the undergrowth, inches closer and closer, and then, bam,
And they just pounce.
they explode into action. A powerful pounce, targeting the neck or throat with a fatal bite.
Wow, that's intense. But I know there's more to them than just hunting, right? They play a much bigger role in the environment.
Absolutely. They're actually considered a keystone species.
Okay, keystone species. Break that down for me a little.
It means they play a crucial role in maintaining the balance of the whole ecosystem. They help regulate populations of herbivores and other carnivores.
So they're like the glue holding everything together.
Yeah, exactly. It's all interconnected. Take the leopard out of the equation, and the whole system can start to unravel.
So the Indian leopard is a pretty important block in that system.
Crucial.
Yeah.
But despite their importance, they are facing some serious challenges.
Like what are the biggest threats to their survival?
Well, the most pressing issue is habitat loss. Deforestation, agricultural expansion, urbanization.
It's shrinking their world, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. And that means less space for them to roam, to hunt, to raise their young. It also increases the chances of those encounters with humans that we talked about.
It's like a domino effect. But habitat loss isn't the only problem, is it?
Unfortunately not. Poaching is another major threat. Their beautiful pelts, certain body parts.
It's awful that these animals are being targeted like that.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking. And all of this combined has led to their vulnerable status on the IUCN Red List.
Vulnerable. What does that mean in terms of numbers?
It's estimated that there are only about 12,000 to 14,000 Indian leopards left in the wild.
Wow. So the situation is pretty dire. But are there any reasons to be hopeful? Are there any efforts underway to protect them?
There are, and we'll dive into those right after the break.
Sounds good. We'll be right back with more on the incredible Indian leopard.
There are. There are some amazing people and organizations working hard to protect these animals.
That's good to hear. What kind of efforts are we talking about?
Well, for starters, there are initiatives focused on habitat restoration.
So like planting trees, creating protected areas?
Exactly. And establishing wildlife corridors to connect those fragmented habitats.
Yeah, because if they can't move between those spaces, it's like being trapped on an island.
Right. It limits their ability to find food, mates, everything.
It all ties back to that adaptability we were talking about before.
It really does.
Yeah.
And then to tackle those immediate threats, like poaching.
Yeah, what's being done about that?
Well, there are anti-poaching patrols working tirelessly to combat the illegal wildlife trade.
That's got to be a tough job.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
But they're making a difference. And then there's the public awareness side of things.
That's so important, right? Getting people to understand.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Changing perceptions, promoting coexistence.
But, when it comes to those human-wildlife conflicts,
Yeah.
those must be really difficult to resolve.
They are, especially when livestock is involved.
Right, because people's livelihoods are at stake.
Exactly. But there are programs working with communities offering compensation for livestock losses.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. And helping farmers build predator-proof enclosures, things like that.
So it's about finding ways for both sides to coexist.
Exactly. Practical solutions that benefit everyone.
I like that approach. We've talked a lot about their physical adaptations, but I'm curious about their social lives.
Oh, yeah.
Are they solitary creatures? Do they hang out in groups?
For the most part, they're loners. They prefer to roam and hunt alone.
So they only come together when it's time to mate.
Pretty much. But they still communicate,
Yeah.
They use a range of vocalizations, scent marking.
So it's like, this is my territory. Stay out.
Exactly. They're definitely establishing those boundaries.
Makes sense. But if they're mostly solitary, how do they even find each other to mate?
Well, those scent markings come in handy there, too. Males use scent to attract females, and females leave trails to signal their receptivity.
Oh, wow. So it's all about the smells, like a dating app, but with real-world scents.
Yeah, something like that.
And once they've found each other, what's the mating process like?
It can be pretty intense. Lots of vocalizations, even some playful fighting.
Sounds dramatic. And once the cubs are born...
The mothers are fiercely protective. They raise the cubs for about 2 years, teaching them everything they need to know.
It's amazing how those solitary instincts just kind of disappear when they become mothers.
It's remarkable. But eventually, those cubs have to go out on their own, face all the challenges we've been talking about.
And it brings us back to that bigger picture, right? With all these threats, is there one thing we can do to really make a difference for the Indian leopard?
That's a great question. I think the most important thing is to shift our perspective. See them not as a threat, but as a crucial part of a larger system, one that benefits us all.
It's like moving from fear to understanding.
Exactly.
But how do we actually make that happen? It's a big ask.
It starts with education. Learning about them, their role in the ecosystem, the challenges they face.
So we need to become advocates.
In a way, yes. The more people understand, the more likely we are to find solutions that work for both humans and leopards.
It's about recognizing that their fate is intertwined with ours.
Absolutely. Conservation isn't just for scientists and policymakers. It's something we can all contribute to.
So it's about personal responsibility, even if it seems like a small action.
Every little bit helps. And realizing that can be pretty empowering.
It is. It gives me hope for their future.
Me too.
Yeah.
And it's not about being overwhelmed by the challenges, but inspired by the possibilities.
I love that. Possibilities instead of problems.
Exactly.
Well, this has been an incredible deep dive. We've learned so much about these fascinating creatures.
It's been a pleasure sharing this journey with you.
The pleasure was all mine. And to all our listeners out there, thank you for joining us. We hope you've come away with a new appreciation for the Indian leopard and a sense of hope for their future.
Absolutely. And remember, even small actions can make a big difference. Keep exploring, keep learning, and keep advocating for these amazing animals.
Yeah, a world where humans and these incredible creatures coexist peacefully. What would that actually look like?
It's a beautiful vision to think about. For me, it would be about respecting each other's spaces.
Right.
Understanding that our actions impact them and that their survival is tied to the health of the entire ecosystem.
And that a healthy ecosystem ultimately benefits us as well.
Exactly. We're all connected, whether we realize it or not.
So what can we do? What are some concrete steps we can take to move towards that vision?
Well, I think awareness is key. We need to educate ourselves and others about the Indian leopard.
Yeah, learning about their behavior, the challenges they face.
Right, and supporting those organizations doing the work on the ground.
Those conservation efforts are so important.
They are. And, even small changes in our own lives can make a difference.
Like what? What kind of things?
Thinking about our consumption, being mindful of our impact on the environment.
It's about recognizing that everything's connected.
Exactly. Every action has a ripple effect.
And that even small actions can contribute to something much bigger.
It's empowering, isn't it? Knowing that we can each play a part.
It really is. It gives me hope for the future, not just for the Indian leopard, but for all of us.
Me too. Because it's not about being overwhelmed by the challenges, but inspired by the possibilities for change.
I love that. Possibilities instead of problems. Well, this has been an incredible journey. We've learned so much about the Indian leopard.
They're truly remarkable creatures.
And to all our listeners, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you've come away with a newfound appreciation for the Indian leopard and a sense of hope for their future.
We can all make a difference.
Absolutely. Keep exploring, keep learning, and keep advocating for these amazing animals. That's all for this deep dive. Thanks for listening, everyone.